So lately there's been a lot of talk and buzz about AI generated art. So basically you're putting in a text prompt and then the AI is creating the art. And there's two main platforms. There's Midjourney and there's dall-e. So in this video, we're going to break it into three different parts. The first part, we're going to look at Midjourney, where we're going to look at the basics of what it is, how to set it up, and how to use it. And in the second part, we're going to look at some tips working with text prompts, some more advanced prompts, and also some cheats to get around that. And then the third part you really don't want to miss is I'm going to discuss what does this mean to a professional artist or a hobbyist. So without further ado, let's jump into the first part. To get started, you're going to go to midjourney.com and then you can join the beta. Now, I joined this when it was a private beta, but now it's a public beta, which means that anyone can join now and you can just accept the invite. Now, what you want to do is make sure you set up a Discord account first. I'm not going to show how to do that because there's so many videos on Discord. Then once you've set up a Discord account, got the invite, you just click sign in. Or you can download the Discord desktop app, or you can even do this from a mobile phone. Okay, so this is my homepage, and these are some of the ones I've been experimenting with. If we look on the left, we can go to the community feed, and you can get inspiration here from other people's work. Now, this is all about the prompt. If you roll over any of these, you'll see the prompt, and these prompts are different words that are being used. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to add those words in and let the AI create the art. Let's just jump in and do it right now. So what we want to do is go under our name down the bottom, and then we're going to go to Discord. So we'll go through the browser-based Discord right now. And then when you get started, what you want to do is you want to go under the newbies. And you'll see this is the art that people are generating. Let's start with something really basic. Now what you want to do is do a /imagine. And then that's going to come up a prompt. In the prompt, we can put whatever we want. Let's say robot using Photoshop. So we're just going to go very, very basic right now and just see what it comes up with. And then you hit enter, and so right now I'm not really giving it much to work with here. I'm just saying, hey, and each pass, you'll see what it's doing here is it's passing, and each time it's going to get a little bit better. Now this is art that's never existed before. So now we've got robots using Photoshop. So here we go. We've got these different robots. Now these have been created from the AI, which references all the art on the internet and literally brings that together and has learned how to create these. Now you're going to see there's U and then V. So U is upscale. If I want to make any of these larger, I can, and they count number 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I click on any of these, it will enlarge any one of those if we want to have a better look at it. The V will create a variation based on one of those. So if we're looking at these and we're like, hey, I kind of like this one here. Maybe I want a variation based on number 1. We click V1. So these are the variations based on that particular image. So I kind of like this fourth one. Why don't we upscale the fourth one? So we're going to click on U4. So what you're actually doing right now is you're communicating with the bot, and you're telling the bot what you want it to do. Now your job is going to get queued up with everybody else's, and it can take a little while for it to generate. As you can see, everything here that's happening is public. So you can see what everyone else is generating. You can see some people are doing more complicated ones. And here's there. So let me just show you how to save this out. It's not quite finished yet, 93%. So let's wait for it to hit 100%. Each pass, it'll give it more detail. And it's finished. Let's see the result. And there it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this. And then if we want to save it, we're going to right click, save image as, and we can just save that. Now this will also appear on your home screen. So as you see in these different channels, it can get super, super busy. So there's a way to get around that where you can just communicate privately with the bot. And what you do is you're just looking for the Midjourney bot. Let's just click on it here. And then we're just going to send a message to it. I'll just say hi. And what this does is it takes us in. So here's some other ones that I was playing with previously. So now I'm having a private conversation with the bot. And this makes it easier for us to get rid of all the noise and just see what we're working on. Okay, so let's create something. So we're going to do /imagine. And then on the prompt, there's so much more we can do with this. A bird flying over a ship on an island. So let's see what it does with this prompt. Notice this time we don't have to scroll. And you can see here, this is what it generated. Now, if you want to have 4 more results, you can just hit the refresh button and it'll do another set of 4 variations. All right, number 1 is a lot more like what I was looking for. Let's look at some variations on number 1. Let's hit the V1. As we increase the resolution, it also increases the amount of detail. So let's do the number 1 again. Let's do the upscale 1. And we can click on the image to look at the final. So the key to this is all in the prompt. If you want to learn how to do everything, just log into Midjourney and then you'll see your recently created as well as help and FAQ. If we click on here, here's the manual. If you spend an hour or a couple of hours reading through that, you can understand all the different prompts and the different things that you can ask it to do to get more accurate results. We're going to look at a couple of those right now. The first thing we're going to look at, though, is how to use one of your own images as an influence. So the first thing you have to do is actually have the photo uploaded. So this is from my gallery at photoshopCAFE. Let's right-click, and we're going to choose the image address. Now, let's go to Midjourney. We're going to type in Imagine. And under the prompt, the first thing you're going to do is you're actually just going to paste in the image. And let's continue. So we can add other parameters, like let's do photorealistic. Here's a special one. It's called image weight, which is IW. And this image weight is how much of this is going to be weighed on the text and how much of this is going to be weighed on the original image. So if we do a small amount such as 0.05, it's mostly going to be towards the text that we add. If we go for a larger amount such as 5, it's going to weight more towards the photo and less towards the suggestion. So let's have a look at this. All right, so there's some interesting results. So if you remember, the image that we were using here was this image. So it recognized the fire, it recognized the guitar and the city, and it kind of came up with these variations. Now let's enter the same prompt, but this time we're going to do more weighting towards the words and less towards the image. This time we're going to do image weight to 0.5. All right, we can see number 4 here starting to put some balloons and things in here. So why don't we do a variation of number 4? Whoa, I really like what's going on number 3 with this guitar. So why don't we upscale number 3? All right, that's interesting. So as you can see, it's kind of a variation. It's not quite the same. In fact, the guitar is going the opposite direction. So as you can see, this certainly isn't perfect yet. Let's do a cat in a boat. Now this time we want to do a style. So let's do Dr. Zeus and see what happens. And then for the style, we want cartoon. And there's our results. Pretty interesting. Let's do the same. So we're just going to do cat in a boat. All right, so look at this. As you can see, these compositions are all unique. Let's go even more realistic. Let's do photorealistic. And if you see here, some of these can look a little weird, but number 3 actually looks quite realistic. Of course, it's a massive cat. Let's do another one in the style of Matt Groening from The Simpsons. See what happens here. All right, there we go. I'm not sure how Simpsons it's looking as much as it's trying to actually merge a cat with Matt, which is kind of an interesting kind of a look. Let's do Leonardo da Vinci. All right, that's pretty crazy. Little creepy in some senses, but you can see how I can pick up the style of all kinds of different things. We can do AR. And this will give us an aspect ratio, so it doesn't have to be square. It will always be square by default. So let's do an aspect ratio of 16:9. So this is how you're going to do it. You're going to do --AR for aspect ratio and then 16 and use the :9. And let's hit enter. And we'll let these build. And in a second, I'll show you a way to kind of cheat a little bit when it comes to generating these prompts. Whoa, these are actually pretty cool. So why don't we do one other setting? So I'm going to grab all the settings again. Let's just copy this, and I want to show you another one, and that's going to be chaos. So let's do imagine. Okay, so we're going to do another parameter. This time we're going to do chaos, and let's do a very low number, like 1, which means that it's going to keep it very strict with a low chaos. So we're going to apply that, and we're going to do a second one with a higher chaos. This time we're going to do chaos 99 and just let it run wild. All right, and here you can see chaos at work very nicely. So here's a very strict low chaos, and so it's creating very literal to what we're putting in here. And we got some great cities here. But then when we do the chaos at a higher amount, it lets the AI just kind of gives it more freedom, lets it just go ahead and, break out. And you can, as you can see here, you can get some pretty wild results when you're using a higher chaos. Okay, let me show you a tool that's going to help you with these prompts. If you go to promptomaina.com, we can actually build our own prompts here that we can use in Midjourney as well as dall-e. So let's do a subject. Okay, why don't we do, let's do a landscape. And let's do fishing. And then we can add visual inspiration if we want to add an image. Well, let's do some details here. Under details, what do we want to do? Let's do camera. So we could choose the camera scenes. So let's do something cinematic. Let's grab color here. If we want to choose a color palette, let's use something like a cine color. And notice we can just go through here and we're just clicking on different things. So lighting, let's get some nice ray tracing, which will give us some nice realism. And then, we want other things we can add in. We want to do the style of an artist. And you can see there's some suggested here. You could type in your own, of course, but let's do octane render. And this is going to also give more realism. All right, now you've created it, just click copy. So we've copied our prompt. And you can build all kinds of prompts there if I have to memorize all the parameters. And then we just simply paste it here into Midjourney and let it run. And whoa, look at these. Look how realistic they are. So let's just click on them and then we can see them large. And look at this, they're very, very realistic. Just take a breath for a second and let's talk about what this means. I know that when I first started playing around with this, I almost had a panic attack because I was like, oh my God, it's weird to think that a computer is doing this and is it replacing us? Is it replacing humans? So people had the same reaction when photography came out. People were like, this is not art, this is art. And then same thing with digital art, Photoshop and some of the stuff we do. So it's what we're doing now is sacrilegious to some people in the future. And we've got to be careful that we don't become a Luddite. And the Luddite was, if you remember the 18th, well, we don't remember the 18th century, but in the 18th century, the textile workers were making really good money. And then they invented these machines that could do the work of people and do it more efficiently and quicker and sometimes even better. And then there was a bunch of people that went around and broke into factories and destroyed the machines were called Luddites. And that's because the leader was Ned Ludd. So we definitely don't want to become Luddites and fight against. In fact, you can't fight against progress. It's here. It's going to happen. So what do? Just take a breath for a second and we're going to think about this. Like, number one, it's never going to fully replace a person. Just think of it as a tool that you can use. And some artists are mixing it with their own art. So one, you can be using it to generate ideas or for inspiration. Because one of the things it's not doing is it can create some really incredible looking art, like very, very incredible looking art. But it's not exactly, like say you have a picture in your mind, you're not going to be able to create that in the AI. The AI is going to create something new, something interesting. But say, for example, you're like, hey, I like the person. I'd like them rotated. Could you move them over? Or it's the wrong type of tree. Put a different type of tree in. It's not at that point where you can go in and you can make those kind of changes. You can't art direct it like that. So what that means is some people might start off with this kind of work and then modify it. And it takes skill to modify it. So you can't just modify it if you don't have the skills. So there's still a use for the skills, but then there's also another thing. If we use it as a tool, like maybe we can use it for some backgrounds or something like that. We're doing photography and we want to generate some backgrounds. Or we want to use it as a base. Maybe we want to paint over it and turn it into something that we can make of our own. So there's definitely that side where the human creativity is still gonna rise to the top. Just as much as stock photography has replaced some photography, and it has, but you go to a high-end shoot, high-end catalog, something like that, or a brand, we're looking for something very, very specific. And that way, everything is art directed, everything's creative, from the set to the clothing, the styling, the lighting, the posing, the product placement. Everything is very, very specific. And that's still going to be done by hand. That's still going to be done with a team of people. Now, this AI might help generate some ideas for maybe some shoots you want to do. Like you can say, hey, I like this kind of composition. You can take some elements of that and kind of help with the planning process, the storyboard processing even. Now, this is going to affect jobs eventually, especially when it comes to like the smaller, low budget, like mom and pop kind of jobs. Some of those jobs are going to be gone and going to be replaced with the AI. A lot of the jobs maybe that are on Fiverr or different places like that. Now, I had a chat with a friend of mine, Lee Cozy, who's a professional artist, very, very good artist. And we talked about this for a little while because I was kind of curious, what his thoughts were. And so some of the thoughts are some of my thoughts, and also I'm sharing some of the thoughts that we had in our conversation as well. So as much as this AI can create a lot of work, there's still going to be people having to run the AI, and there's also going to be people that are compositing and pulling real world elements and kind of blending together. So there's always going to be work for artists. Now, where this brings me a little bit of fear is for artists starting out. So you're starting out, you might get a junior graphic designer or a junior design or junior illustrator job where you're kind of just bashing and doing a lot of production work. And as you're doing that production work, you're getting the experience, you're building your portfolio, you're building your skills, and eventually until you can work your way up into more of a master artist position. I see less openings in the entry-level positions, which means it's going to be harder for people to break into the industry, I feel, professionally in the future. And as far as artists, hobbyists, how's this going to affect hobbyists? Okay, so you got a couple of things. You got people that are doing the art for the love of the art. They enjoy creating. They enjoy the process. So there's some things that I do, like photorealistic illustrations in Photoshop. Why do I do that? I could use 3D applications. I could use cameras. I could take photos. I mean, I have cameras, with macro lenses. I have all that stuff. But sometimes I just enjoy the process. So for the hobbyist, this doesn't necessarily really have to change anything. You're still going to be enjoying the process. Maybe you're incorporating AI, or you will incorporate that AI into what you're doing, and maybe do paint overs, or composite with photographs of miniatures, or whatever you're doing. It could be part of the process. The question is this art or is it not art? Whether or not it's art, the second question is the person entering the prompts, that typing the text in. Are they artists or are they not artists? So when I type in cat in a boat and it creates a cat in a boat, I did not create those cats in a boat. The AI software did. So I'm not going to go around and say, hey, I'm an artist and I created this picture. Because you didn't. The AI created the picture. So I think we've got to watch people that are calling themselves or going to call themselves artists who are not artists, who have not put in the time, have not put in the blood, sweat, and tears. Now, it takes a lifetime to become an accomplished artist. And, just to learn how to shade and composition, color, all this stuff, it takes years. If you go and you read the manual here and you start playing around with these prompts, within a week you can be an expert. So, hopefully in the future, because I've seen this a little bit in the photography industry, and I hate to say this, but sometimes the egos can really run away. So hopefully we don't have people that are entering some prompts and, maybe got some clever prompts going, but their egos are inflating because you didn't create this, the AI created it. Now, when you're using this as a foundation or an inspiration or a background, and then you're creating other elements and you're putting in there with them, that's a completely different story. So anyway, I didn't mean to be rambling about this. I just wanted to put some thoughts out there. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Drop them into the chat. Let's have a conversation. Because, you know, what do you think? What do you think? Is this something? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Either way, it's inevitable. Is this something that inspires you? Is this something that makes you want to give up being an artist? Is it a tool you want to use? Is it something you just want to ignore? There's a lot of thoughts. Now my advice to you is, if this distresses you and it gives you anxiety, just relax for a second. Just relax. Don't let this discourage you from being an artist. Don't let this discourage you from learning the craft and creating something, because there's a satisfaction that comes from creating something. And it's not about competition. It's not about, is it better than other people's? It's not about the money. It's not about the prestige. It's about the pure joy of creating something and putting your soul into it. And at the end of the day, no matter how great this AI gets, it doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a human soul that can put that emotion in there and really make the viewer feel what you want them to feel in an authentic way. And so at the end of the day, does that mean we don't need Photoshop anymore? Absolutely not. I'm still going to be here teaching you guys how to use Photoshop, and you still need to learn Photoshop. Even if you're using this AI art, if you want to be able to manipulate it and fix it and edit it and turn it into exactly what you want it to be, you're still going to be using Photoshop. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. You won't miss any videos from me. And until next time, I'll see you at the cafe.